Hello, everyone, and welcome to On the Rise with Miss Phoenix. I am your host, Miss Phoenix. Here is where we have everyday people talking about everyday experiences, sharing their life, where you're free to express your opinions, your ideas, and let's talk about your journey and encouraging someone along the way. Today on my show, I have my special guest, Ibn Shakoor. He is a teacher, a school counselor. I'm sorry. He is a therapist. He is the co founder of the Spot JC LLC and also the Spot JC Foundation. He's a songwriter, he's a poet, but I'm going to let him tell you who he is. Welcome to the show, Evan. Can you tell him a little bit about yourself?
Everything you said. So I don't want to repeat. And just an all around healer and someone who tries to add as much to the universe and to the world as I possibly can on my journey, like you
Hmm.
introduced on the show.
Okay. So there you have it. He's all of that and some more. And as we talk to him a little bit more, you even see even more about him. So I brought you on the show because I see a lot of things that you're doing in the community. I watch you as my coworker in the building, how you interact and intertwine. So I see a lot of stuff that you have in you, and I felt like this will be the perfect place for you to come on, and for those who don't know you to get to know you and get to know about your organization, your foundation, and just the different things that you are doing within the community as well as in school. Also, there was a quote that I seen. So I feel like let's just talk about it. It is from Frederick Douglass, and he says, "It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. It's easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men."
Hmm.
So, with that being said, as a man, um, what do you think about that quote?
Well, first of all, is accurate. That's probably one of the most accurate quotes ever said. But I mean, as a man and who has experienced trauma as a child, I'm doing okay right now, but I had to work my way out of the negative as an adult
Mhm.
because I didn't get what I needed as a child.
Okay.
So, the way the system is set up in society, I mean, it's set up for us in the public school system in inner cities. It's set up for you to kind of miss things as a kid,
Mhm.
and the society still expects you to be able to be productive and provide the things that they measure us by as men when we didn't get it as children.
Okay.
So to have to double back, it's double the work once you become an adult, because I mean, is one plus one always is gonna equal two,
Mhm.
and I might be a quote unquote success story or whatever you want to call it, but the reality is everyone might not be as fortunate as me. When I look to my right, when I look to my left, some of my friends who experienced the same amount of trauma, they're broken men. you
Okay.
know I'm still somewhat broken. I just kind of like battled through it, but being a broken man, it takes it a step further, because once we have children, how do we have children that are born into situations where they don't have to be repaired? It's just a cycle. So, working in the school, we need to take that quote seriously.
You said something. Being a broken man, society does not focus a lot on the brokenness of men.
Hmm.
So many times you have like support groups for women, and women is all about the brokenness of the woman and all about helping women heal because they endured the lack of in childhood or just different things like that. And the focus never really I always say like hurt people kind of hurt people, and it's not on purpose, but because that's what they experience and that's what they know, it just kind of reciprocates. And if you have broken people, and sometimes broken people get together, everyone says, "Oh well, she's broken. Help her," but no one seems to say the man is broken. Let's try to help make the men better. Or even some men don't seem to acknowledge their brokenness.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, I know that you're a therapist and different things. So what is your take, or what do you see when it comes to the men in the community? Or like you said, you can look to your left and see this person that I grew up with, or this person, their story is not the same as mine, but they don't seek help.
Mm-hmm.
So as a therapist, what was your intake be? What your view of that?
Well, for one, it's not cool for a man, and I'm being sarcastic, but it's not cool for a man to kind of like express himself and be vulnerable. You know, that's looked at as a sign of weakness. And I know that society is somewhat becoming, with on social media, it's becoming more like it's more of a thing now.
Mm-hmm.
But when you really get out in the street and you talk to people, men anyway, they're
Mm-hmm.
not. It's we're still not as a group in that place we need to be as far as being vulnerable. It's not cool, and I think that when men are hurt, I think that it looks different than what we might think. So
Okay.
like if you're a woman and you're experiencing something and you're hurt, you might quote cry, or you might reach out for help because it's an acceptable form of expression. But if I'm a man, I could be hurt too, but I might be punching walls. I might be acting extra tough or extra hard. I might even be getting money, and I might look like I might look like I'm happy, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
overcompensating for how I really feel. So I think that you do see the hurt in men. It
Mm-hmm.
just looks different, and it's because it's a more acceptable form of expressing the hurt instead
Okay.
of just being vulnerable and looking for the help. We don't even know how. We don't have the information.
Okay. You said that, and me being a mother of sons, I say a lot because I find it that society says men are, you're not supposed to be vulnerable. You're supposed to have this tough shell. You're supposed to be tough. You're supposed to not show emotion. You're not supposed to. And so with that, like you said, you don't show. It looks different. You punch a wall. Oh, he's a man. That's what men do. They
Yeah.
punch
Yep.
walls. They do stuff like that. Men don't cry. You're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to. But I feel like if we teach them young, it's okay to be
Yeah.
vulnerable. It's okay to express your emotions. It's
Mhm.
okay for you to show it. um then like you said, we won't have to, this quote, we won't have to go back and try to repair the brokenness, because we begin to deal with it. And you can be vulnerable and not lose your strength. You understand what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Like, it's okay. It's okay for you to have your weak moments. It's okay, because if not, like you said, you become this man. And I like to say all the time, mask. I say all the time, we
Mhm.
mask who we are and what we go through, where it stops our healing. It stops the process of healing, and it stops the process of you even being able to seek help, because like you said, it looks different. So because it's looking different, me, as I'm going to use myself as a woman, I don't realize that that's your cry for help, or that's your
Yeah.
cry for you being hurt, or that's your cry
Mhm.
for something happening, because I'm used to seeing it.
And everybody, like, a trauma responses look different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, some things that have happened to me have pushed me and drove me to be successful, but it's not necessarily fun. It might have been fear of failure might have driven me to be who I am, but that's still a response to my trauma. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So there might be men out there who, like I said before, like, they might be hurting, they might be traumatized by something, and you might not ever know, because he might be the dude that's getting money
Mm-hmm.
and seems so happy, but that money is what gives him validation over that hurt that he's really feeling inside. I see it a lot.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And but you can't hide it. Like if someone that I mean, me being in mental health, you know, I'm gonna pick up on stuff like that. And
Right.
then as you know, like working in a high school, there's kids that they're screaming out for help through their anger. Boys I'm talking about, you know,
Right.
and they really just want a hug.
Right.
You know what I mean?
What I've noticed, like you said, working in, especially in the school system, you see the young men that's screaming out because of their situation. And could it could it be the lack of support? Because again, you have adults, men, who don't know how to reach out for help or even how to give it. So if they're still dealing with trauma issues,
Mm.
um, they're used to the look, so they let the look go. If that makes sense,
Yeah, I got it.
they let it go
Hmm.
instead of recognize. Listen, I understand that trauma. I'm still dealing with that trauma. Let me help you now work through it. Let me hug you. Let me be that ear to talk to you and say, listen, let's talk about it. Um, and it's certain things that, yeah, is women around, but it's certain things, like I tell people all the time, it's certain things that a man that understand a man.
Yeah. Yep.
So you were saying, like you were saying that, and as you were saying that, I just began to think, and you talked about childhood trauma. So a lot of people's like, well, he had childhood trauma. What is childhood trauma? Do you want to share some of your story?
Yeah, I'm always open. I know I don't talk a lot at work, but yeah, I'm very open about my story because I don't think my story belongs to me. I think
Okay.
that, it happened and it's like it's in the history book, so I think that it's meant to be told.
Okay. Could you share a little bit about your story?
Well, yeah, I had like a what story you want? You want the nah.
You can share whatever you want to share for them to help identify that. What do you mean when it says that you have childhood trauma, some things
Yeah.
that you experience, and some things that drive you to push you.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, from just like from a general standpoint, you know, when we're kids, like those are like the early developmental stages of our brains. So the things that happen to us at that age, at those ages, is both good and bad, shape who we are today. So
Mhm.
that's why childhood trauma is so important to address because we're really just grown ass kids, to be honest.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? For me, I grew up. My mother I was born in 86. My mother probably got on drugs about 90, 91. So I
Mhm.
was about 4 or 5 when she got on drugs. And, you know, those were serious like drug times back then.
Mhm.
My pops went to prison about that around that same time.
Mhm.
So I was raised by my great grandmother for until she passed away, and just being caught up in that cycle of, you know, when the people who, you know, brought you into the world are not there to support you for whatever reason,
Right.
you know, you're gonna get caught up in those loopholes. You're gonna see some shit that you don't need to see. You're
Mhm.
gonna emotionally, you're gonna feel abandoned at times. It's gonna it's gonna build you up in ways good and bad
Mhm.
that you probably like. For me, I carry it with me my entire life. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So just that family structure of that drug abuse, that prison, and being alone and being like so independent
Mhm.
is traumatic because I can't ever really rest. Like I don't know when like people someone might look at me and say, "Oh, you're doing so many great things," but for me, it's like I'm still running.
Okay.
You know, I'm still running from that feeling of just like when you come from like nothing, like when you could look around and be like, damn, well, damn, if my mother don't is not gonna get it for me, if my father's not gonna be able to get it for me, damn, like I gotta do this shit myself. When you realize
Mhm.
something like that at a very young age, it kind of like gives you a certain level of anxiety that is really hard to get rid of. I don't care if I had
Okay.
$20 million. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah. Wow. It's like that.
I'll
It's
take the 20 million though, but
if I had it to give,
yeah.
I got you. If I get it, I got you. And we gonna have it together.
Yeah, we're gonna share it.
But that was really powerful what you said. Like you said, while people look at what you're doing and say you're doing so many positive things, you're doing so
Mhm.
much, you're doing so much. Your mindset is, I gotta keep running, I gotta keep, and it's like, I don't know, I'm just guessing. It's like I gotta accomplish this and this and this and this
Yeah,
because of where I came from. And it's like there's no moment to pause and celebrate
absolutely.
the
Yeah,
success.
it's not. And as I get older, I just turned 36, but as I get older, I'm starting to, do a better job at finding those pockets of rest
Okay.
and appreciation. But that anxiety and that fear is
Mm-hmm.
still very loud.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just like a cushion. Like when you don't have a cushion, you know that if you fall, there's no one there to catch you.
Mm-hmm.
You have that mindset that is gonna bring you great success, and your drive is always gonna show, but it can kind of like rob you of your peace at the same time.
So because of your childhood, your trauma, different things like that,
Hmm.
is that what made you become a therapist? What made you you're a school counselor, you're in education, you're a songwriter, you're a poet, and then you throw on there therapist.
Therapist, yeah.
So what is it that made you go in to become a licensed therapist? What is it that made you seek out? Because when I see I feel like they are there to help and guide you in your healing process.
Hmm.
So what made you, even with the things that you've been through, the things that you endure, made you go onto the path of becoming a guide to healing?
Well, for one, I can say this now because I know this now, but I know that I'm like a born healer.
Okay.
That's just who I am. Whether I was a licensed therapist or not, I just know that I'm a born healer. But I would be lying if I said I was like, this is what I wanted to do or some shit like that. Because I ain't know nothing about mental health growing up, all the way
Okay.
through my 20s. I didn't know anything. Um, I think when I was about 27, 28, I had like a big ass episode, a big ass mental health episode
Okay.
that opened my mind up, like, because I wasn't myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm starting to like, the worst thing you could do is go on Google and shit when you,
Yes, I'm looking it up.
my
Right.
bad, sorry about my language. But like, so when I went on there and I started reading all these symptoms that I was having, it just started to click. Then I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to doctors. Then I'm going to mental health professionals. And now for that 28 years, I had never talked about some of those things I went through.
Right.
And I understood it so well that I understood the language so well. I was already in education, and I knew I didn't want to be in a classroom. So I kind of started taking that route because I was starting to get interested in what was happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
So once I started to see how good I was at healing myself and navigating that, I said, "Oh nah, this is one of my bag of tricks and one of my callings that just it was just meant to be."
I like to say, my belief, everybody has a purpose. God has placed everybody on here, and when He did, He placed you with a purpose. And sometimes you have to navigate through life to really find your true purpose. And when you go through things in life, it makes you easier to identify with other people, what they're going through. It's hard. I say all the time, it's hard for you to it will be hard for me to talk to you about something that you've never experienced for you to understand why I feel the way I feel. So I never understood. I say all the time, I don't know why God takes some of the people through some of the stuff He takes them through, but then I understand that some of the stuff you go through, good, bad, ugly, and different, is to propel you onto a purpose, in life, for you. Like you said, it's in the history books, it's in your history, but it's not for you. It's for you to share with somebody else,
Mhm.
because you're going to encounter somebody else that's either where you've been or is in where you were at, that's going to need help to get to where they need to go.
Yep.
We're going to break right now for a couple minutes, and we will be right back with my guest, Mr. Shakur, and we're going to talk more about his the spot. We're going to talk about his foundation and just a little bit more about him. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to On the Rise with Miss Phoenix. I'm back with my guest, Mr. Ibn Shakoor. We were talking about his life, childhood trauma, things he's been through. We talked about how what pushed him and made him become a therapist. He was talking about his experience that when he was seeking therapy, he didn't realize that at 28 he was experiencing a mental breakdown. Many of us, some of you may be dealing with, we've done the mental health issues, and we were talking about signs and just different things. But we're going to go back, and he's going to talk more about his story, his journey, about what he experienced with his therapy session, what he experienced, what drives him, what pushes him, and what motivates him. So go ahead. You have the floor. We can talk about your experience in therapy, things that you might have discovered about yourself. What is some stuff that you discovered about yourself during your process of therapy?
Well, when I first went to therapy, I didn't really have a therapist. I'm not gonna say she wasn't a good therapist. It wasn't a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
But immediately I started to figure out like what therapy was. And one of the first things that I recognized was that I was like, man, I was like, um, so many things had happened to me that I had never said out loud.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just suppressed it and kept it inside. And I didn't realize it until I was actually talking about it. I'm like, man, like my mother had, was on drugs so bad. Like when she was prostituting and had me with her,
Mm-hmm.
I never told nobody anything like that. And to hold on to something like that, and then you almost 30 years old, you like, you'll be a fool to think that doesn't affect you some way. You know what I mean? And as I started talking more and more, I was like, man, this stuff is not normal.
Right.
And just because I was 'cause there's a difference between coping with something and healing from something.
Right.
And just because I was coping with it through my creative outlets, through accomplishments, it doesn't mean that I was healing from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I always say that, like, I don't know if I read this somewhere, that success can't heal trauma.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It can mask it. It to the outside, you can package it up real good,
Mm-hmm.
but that's like one of the first things I realized when I was in therapy, because I didn't go to college right after high school. I had some kids and did all of that. But I was like, I had a mental breakdown at the point when I thought I was finally accomplished. I had just became a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
It was my first year of teaching. And I'm thinking like, yo, it's on now. Like, right, like I'm finally can take care of myself. And
Right.
that's the exact moment when everything crashed, and it let me know that I couldn't work myself out of what had happened to me as a kid. It was nothing I could do. I had to really like acknowledge it, work through it, and be honest with myself.
When talking to people, I always tell somebody, sometimes you got to go back to the beginning. You got to go to the place, the first hurt, the first brokenness. And then that's where you begin to see the patterns, the different things that we develop. Um, we can get so good at masking things that at times we don't even notice certain things. And like you said, it was so much that you was just coping with it. It's like dirt on the floor. I see it. Let me sweep this over there. And if I'm gonna sweep it in the corner, so it's not really visible in the open, but it still exists.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like it's like it was so much dirt that was swept that when the rug went over it, you tripped
Yep. Yep.
and was forced to have to deal with it. Many times we go through issues. I shared with the previous guest on the show, at times we look like everything is okay. There was times, you know, wife, mother, everything, a lot of things going okay. But it was times that I thought about driving through the river, not going home. um Growing up, I was, I'm a middle child. So when people are like, oh, you got that middle child syndrome, I'm like, what? That means i I'm not the oldest, I'm not the youngest. So I had to find my way in some areas that, you know I had to figure it out by myself. And it was told, oh, she's the strong one, she's all right, she got this under control. But when I didn't know it myself, I I wasn't okay. So I never knew how to, when other people were really trying to be there for me, to have people be there for me, because my job was always to be there for somebody else because I needed to be strong. So when I say that sweeping the stuff in the corner and the rug, it begins to pile up to a point where you erupt. And like you said, you you had, oh, I'm at the point where, listen, I went through all of this and I finally at that point where I achieved it. We good. What is going on? And you talked about how, not that your therapist wasn't good, it wasn't the right fit.
Yeah. Yep.
So you would say it's important, for if you are seeking help, to find somebody that's the right fit for you.
Yeah.
Because if not, you can find yourself in worse shape than you really were
Yeah.
when you first started.
And it could turn you off from, like, especially if, I should have been in therapy as a kid, but like it'll turn you off from therapy if the relationship with the therapist is not what you want. You know what I
Right.
mean? People never go back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because you think about it, a therapist is like a professional best friend.
Right.
It's like if it's not somebody you would necessarily like hang out with, if it wasn't your therapist, not always, but sometimes that's a good indicator if that's a good fit or not. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because the therapist could be, let's say the therapist is not the greatest with their technique, right? Like maybe they don't have like the best skill in what you need,
Mm-hmm.
but the relationship is so good and the dynamic is so good that it allows you to open up. That's more important than any technique, right? Like I don't care if you need it. Let's just say you need it, because some people do this. I don't, but like some people do hypnosis
Yes.
type therapy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not with the clock, but like
Yeah.
whatever. Um, like maybe that's what you need, but maybe you don't like the therapist. It's more important to have a therapist that you're comfortable with, that you can open up to, than any technique that you could probably find.
Do you find that there's not a lot of us?
No.
that we can go to. And you know, I'm real. I'm going to just be real that um can understand
Mm-hmm.
what you go through when you sit and talk. It's different when you have somebody who understands your culture, who understands your language, who understands you, that can kind of make you a little bit more comfortable. Where you be like, you know what I'm saying, and they be like, yeah.
Yeah.
Other than somebody that be like, well, I don't get that.
Could you explain that more, please?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so now you said like, I'm sitting there explaining like, what more? Look, this is what happened. Well, I don't get it.
Yeah.
So do you think that our youth, our
Mm-hmm.
children, because there is trauma
Mm-hmm.
in the inner city. There's trauma. I mean, we experience this trauma. We have
Yeah.
people being raised by their grandparents, fathers incarcerated, mothers incarcerated, on drugs. Um, we work in the school system, so you see it. They parents come to the school.
Yeah.
Um, been in the school system for a long time. I've seen it. I've seen where I spoke to a parent about a student, and the parent says, "I don't know what you want me to do. They pay the bills." So, with that being said, the need for healing and people of African Americans, Black people, us
Mm.
being out there and say, listen, we know trauma. We're here to help you heal and come through this so that we can make our culture better. We can become better. And I think that's half of the problem with our success,
Okay.
because there is so much trauma that we can't succeed, and neither do we want others to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I get so many like there's a thing called Psychology Today where like you can pay for to get your profile up there as a therapist, and of course it has you have to put your picture up there so
Mm-hmm.
people can that all they have to go off of is your picture and your
Mm-hmm.
bio and stuff like that. And listen, I work at the school full time and I do therapy after school.
Uh-huh.
The amount of like emails I get because of the need, like people want somebody that they can relate to, and I'm like, damn, like there we're already the minority, so
Right.
there's even less of us in those types of positions. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because the money is not. You can't. If you want to get rich, you ain't gonna do this. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
so
You
I think a lot of us, especially men, are not going into these fields like that because it's not. You know what I mean? They like if I could drive a truck, I'd probably do that. You know what I mean? If I want to make some money,
right. You have to have the heart for it, and you have
Yeah.
to have the passion for it. So let's talk about the spot. What is the spot? What is that?
So the like you said before, like the two sides of it, you have the studio itself is the spot JC LLC,
Okay.
where like it's like a photography, videography studio that like it can be used as a rental space. Not so much events anymore, but more so like studio rental for your creative stuff.
Okay.
That's the LLC side. And the Spot JC Foundation is for the youth. That's the nonprofit,
Okay.
which we have a program there now with for theater for a youth theater program, and we have
Okay.
a big show coming up March 27th.
Okay. So, how do, if you have youth that's interested in
Hmm.
being a part of the Spot Foundation, like how do they come about being part of the program to show their talents and skills? Because we have some talented children, we have some talented. It's just that not everybody take time to invest in them
Yeah.
to help pull out their crafts.
Yep.
Um, a lot of times when we be like, "Oh, my kid has talent," now they're going to talent agencies and it's about a check and being, but not people really pulling out the talent and saying, "Listen, I'm here for the kids. Let's do this for the kids. Let's give them some alternatives outside of the street." So
You
how
said
can,
right.
yes, how, yes,
Well, at some point I do have the applications for the program.
okay,
this particular grant that we had, the program is ending in a few
Okay.
weeks, but there's still opportunities for the kids to work that show.
Okay.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to work towards getting it to be an all year round type thing.
Okay.
So that's why we really gotta like show our behinds in a good way
Right.
for this show,
Mhm.
because ultimately, with this nonprofit stuff, they gotta hand over the money. They gotta the
Right. Right.
sponsorships. We gotta raise the money, and I think that this show is gonna be so good, and it's gonna be, it started in November. The whole class, the whole theater,
Okay.
and from November to March. So I think it'll show the community, it'll show all the state, it'll show everyone like, yo, this is what is needed. It's right on the hill. It's right
Right.
on Wilkinson.
Okay.
So for people that think that, like you said, some of these kids don't have talent or are not interested, I got kids that come from innovation. I got kids
Mhm.
that come from 14 school. And they all taking part in it. So it's definitely possible if the opportunity is given.
So with that being said, what's your vision for the spot? What's your vision? Where do you see this it's going and taking off? What do you see? Because I know when you sat down and you and your partners got together, you
Mhm.
had a vision for it. So what's your vision for this?
My vision is for me to kind of like step back from it in terms of like, and kind of like operating from a standpoint where I can draw all the attention and all the donations to the program, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of create opportunities in two ways. Create more opportunities for the youth to like be creative, and actually they get paid too for this program. So
Oh
that's
wow.
another thing. For them to get paid from their art, because the thing is art, therapy, and business.
Okay.
And also create opportunities to employ people
Mm-hmm.
that I feel like there's a lot of people in the community who have talent to offer, but in a traditional school setting, like you work in a certain capacity
Mm-hmm.
at Snyder, but that might not be what the kids would get the most out of you through the position that you're in.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
probably go upstairs and set up a podcast and have more of an impact with the kids than the position you're in now.
Right.
So I want to create those opportunities for people like you to be able to work with kids that way too.
Oh, okay. Duly noted. Duly noted. Um, you said something, and I'm just trying to recall. You said, um, I just drew a blank. It's
Yeah,
gonna come back to me. It's gonna come back to me.
all
But
that info.
yeah, I'm gonna hold down, but it's gonna come back. It's gonna come back. But in this working, with everything that you have going on, and the need for it in the community, the really need for it, have you seen the kids that you work with, just the impact of them being able to do this, to express their talent, to express and be involved? I feel like kids like to be involved in something that's going to drive them and push them. And if they're geared and steered the right way, it gives them a sense of hope in something where um, kids have situations and issues that they deal with.
Yeah,
It is an outlet. So do you see the impact and the change in the kids that you come in contact with that is part of this program?
absolutely. And it's like a mirror, because like I went to 41, and I had a teacher, Miss Burrows,
Mm-hmm.
who was a social studies teacher, but she was really into the arts, and she put us in plays, and she took some of the roughest kids and put them on stage and
Mm-hmm.
gave, like you said, gave them an outlet. So when I look at the kids at the spot, I'm like, man, like me knowing how judgmental society is, I'm like, some of these kids, like the people that they're gonna perform in front of on the 27th, would walk right past them on the street and probably assume that they wouldn't be interested in something like this.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
seeing them in motion, it's like, and you look at them having an opportunity like this, you like, man, like for anyone to think that our kids in our community wouldn't want something like this is completely wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You just have
Yeah.
you have to nurture them, and you sometimes you have to catch them early
Mm-hmm.
because you know the reality is when sometimes when they get so in deep into the other stuff that if they even if they wanted to do something like that, they might not be vulnerable enough to actually be a part of it, you know.
Right.
But if you pay them, you might get a different out.
Right. Listen, however you can listen, they might get more interested, but like you said, sometimes when they get accustomed to one side,
Yeah. Yep.
they they cover that other side and don't want to expose
Yep.
that other side.
Yep.
But because they may have had disappointment and didn't have encouragement, um, which is important.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a firm believer of encouragement and words. Words are very powerful. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. You can kill something with your words. You can kill a kid's hope. You can kill a person, and you can cause even more trauma to somebody with what you say because you really don't know what position they may be in.
Absolutely. Yep.
So that's a good thing. We're going to pause right quick, and we'll be right back with more with our guests. Thank you guys. Stay tuned. We will be right back. All right, guys, welcome back. Welcome back. Thank you guys for tuning in. We've had such a good conversation, shared so much. I really appreciate our guests from coming in. I just wanted to share, like, what's next? What do you have going on? What's next? What can we expect from more from the spot? What can we expect from just productions coming out of the spot, JC LLC? What can we expect from Shakur?
Well, for me, first, I like even though I'm a therapist, like I said, I'm a born healer, so I feel like I can help heal through my art, through my creativity. So, for me, next is Dr. Shakur and getting my creative content off the ground to where I can create. Not it's not about the money, but creating financial freedom so that I can spend more time doing what I love versus doing what I need to do to pay the bill. So my production company, I think I put it up there, which is Concrete Culture, is is what I'm investing in myself in more than anything because that's what the content that you see like on social media
Right.
comes from that company.
Okay. And what about the J? What about the Spot Foundation?
And the
What is
spot is for me to be able to step back. And when I say step back, I just mean just running it from the top
okay?
and creating a more opportunities for youth and for people to be employed so that it runs itself and we kind of like bring more creativity to Jersey City and all the surrounding areas because believe it or not there was no arts organization, no black arts organization on the hill.
Wow.
None. So when grants
Wow.
and stuff became available, there was no one to get them for the arts anyway.
Oh wow. Which is a much need, and especially in you find so many different things outside of the urban community. Um, but where it's needed the most is really hard to find.
Yep.
And then they wonder why the kids is in the street, why the kids is doing this, because that outlet and those things is not provided. Um, like I said, I'm not from Jersey City, so even when I moved here, I asked somebody, a question. I was like, "Y'all don't have like a YMCA?" And they were like, "Yeah, it's in, but you gotta have a membership." Like, yeah. And I was like, "We had like a Y, like where the
Yeah.
kids can go basketball, swim, what like a place like y'all don't have rec centers, like
No.
what's going on? Why don't we have these type of things for the kids so that they're not on the street, they're not looking for some other outlet, giving them a safe haven." So I'm just really glad that for your vision and your team that is working hard to provide an outlet for the kids. And I believe in manifesting things, and I begin into speaking things into existence. Like I said, life and death is in the power of the tongue, and we're connected to a very powerful source that He says that He will give us our heart's desires if we delight in Him. So I'm going to be joining forces with you and speaking on one accord that everything that you're seeking to come to pass will come to pass with God's guidance and helping you, because for your purpose, because He's giving you this purpose. And He wouldn't give you this purpose if He did not already plan avenues and doors to open for you on your behalf. So when the doors open, walk through and don't second guess them, because the doors are coming and they're going to open, because He put you on this path and you are a healer, and you have healing in you, and you have healing in your voice and in your speak. Um, I'm going to step away, and
Hmm.
I'm going to give you a few minutes to share your final thoughts, anything you want to say to our guests, words of encouragement, anything that you want to partake in and say. So the floor is yours. And when you finish, just let them know how they can follow you, your social media, how they can get in contact with you. Someone may be looking, they may have a son or a brother or somebody or
Hmm.
something, and may need to sit down with a therapist or something. So some way they can get in contact with you. Okay? The floor
Okay.
is yours.
All right. For one, I'll say that something that I didn't mention is that I don't try to act like I have like the magic beans or the magic pills to, to be successful, a successful black man or anything like that. I do believe that, like you said, I think I was blessed with from God. This is who I am. This is who I was meant to be, and fortunately, I was able to figure that out and understand who I was. So I was able to navigate even when things didn't go my way. Um, for me, I think Frederick Douglass said this too. Um, you measure a man not by where he is, but what he had to go through to get where he is. So, there's many of us out here who may not have had the opportunities, the circumstances that, or the platform to be who we felt like we could be. But, you can't measure that. You can't measure a man by that. Some of us had to go through other things to get where we are. So for me, as a creative, as a man, as a healer, as a therapist, um, I just want to live in my purpose, and wherever I land after that, I can sleep at night knowing that I projected myself as much as I could, and whatever I get from that, I'm satisfied with. And to find me, you can pretty much type my name in any in all the search engines as a therapist or creative, which is Ibn Sharif Shakoor, which my name is up there. I see, so you can find me on Instagram by using that, on the NJ.com, on the Psychology Today, on the Facebook, and Google, on the website ibnsharifshakoor.store, and my company is Concrete Culture. If you Google those two things and you put it in YouTube, you'll see all my content, all my information. So I have to have integrity because I'm so public, and I have to make sure that I'm being true to myself. So you can find me easily. Nothing to hide.
Okay. Listen. He said what I liked about that is he said you can type my name in anywhere and I will pop up and you can see me. Listen, guys. Listen. Mental health is a serious thing. It's really not spoke about in our community. Childhood trauma, it's real. um, we've go through so many things and so many avenues where we don't even tap in, and this is just the beginning. um, I look forward to you coming on this show again for us to just discuss even more in depth about some different things. Um, if you're searching, if you need healing, it's important for you to heal in order to go to where you need to be. Seek out, get a therapist. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with getting help. There's nothing wrong. Listen, he says, listen, I'm still surviving. I'm still dealing with the daily. Listen, I'm still dealing with the daily. I'm still surviving. Yes, I've had therapy. Yes, I've went to a therapist. Yes, um, I'm a life coach. Yes, I'm all of these things, and we're here to help you. So understand that if you need help, it's out there. Thank you for sharing your story. Listen, guys, connect with him. He is doing such great things. Listen, if you have an organization that you can help partner up and help him, if you know of grants, if you're writing checks, listen, guys, it takes a village and it takes a community for us to pour back in. A lot of you have the resources. Contact him. Let's go out and support. He says the show is coming up. It's going to be March 27th. We'll put that up in the comments later too. Go out and support our young people. They can be doing so much any other things, but they're doing something positive. So let's go out and show them that we're behind them and we're supporting them. Thank you so much, Mrs. Shakoor, for coming on and being on the rise with Miss Phoenix. Thank you for being transparent. Thank you for speaking words of encouragement to our guests and showing them that you can heal from childhood trauma. It's okay to seek help. It's okay to be a Black man and say, I was broken and I am still fixing myself, being healed. And I understand that it's important. If we're going to have a family, if we're going to raise kids and bring kids, that we have to fix the wrong. We thank you so much for joining in. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I look forward. Listen, guys, we are here every Wednesday, 7 o'clock. Please like, share, comment. Let us know how this podcast has been an inspiration, how it has helped you. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments. We will get back to you. Listen, tell somebody we're here. We're here. Like, share, subscribe to this channel. We're here. Real people, real stories, real life, encouraging, inspiring, and motivating you, as I would say, always to become a better version of you. Thank you, and I will see you again with On the Rise of Miss Phoenix. Have a good night.
All right, good night.
Bye.